Welcome to the Customer Wins podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of the Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of our past guests have included Kate Guillen of Simplicity Ops, Farbad Nozad of Cashmere AI, Lacey Shrum of Smart KX, and David Crow of Axos Clearing. Today, I'm excited to speak with one of my business partners, actually, Wim Van Lerberghe, founder of Advintro. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using our Form Extract API, simply submit your completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. All right, I'm excited to talk to Wim. Wim grew up in Belgium and went to law school there, graduated in 1989, and decided to become a tour guide in the USA. After sitting on a bus for 7 years, he decided to pursue a career in day trading and lost all his money, of course. He was offered a job to help with the online expansion in Europe and spent the next 2 decades in enterprise sales with Penson and Pershing. In 2019, he founded Advintro in order to help Fintech companies scale and grow their businesses. Wim, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Thanks, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing so great. I'm excited to talk to you. And for those who haven't heard this show before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they built and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Wim, let's understand your business a little bit better. How does your company help people?
So thanks for having me, Rich. Advintro stands for Advice and Introductions. We are basically an outsourced fractional sales organization for Fintechs. So we help companies, like Quick and about another 16 Fintechs with their enterprise sales. So the core thesis that we have is that people buy from people they like and trust. And we thought, why don't we fractionalize the trust and experience that we've gained in this industry over the past 3 decades? And instead of working for just one Fintech, why don't we work for a few Fintechs? So I like to think that we're helping 3 groups of people. One is the actual Fintechs, because it's hard. I mean, you're a little bit of an exception as far as our clients are concerned, Rich, because you already have been doing this for 20 years. You know a lot of people, but there's a lot of firms that are either originating overseas. We have clients from Wales, from the UK, Belgium, and they want to come into the US market so they don't know anybody. And so we help them with making introductions and help them also with sales, discipline, structuring, working through deals. So that's the number one thing that we do. And the second group that we help is actually the buyers. Because if you work for a large organization, whether it's the top RIAs or the top custodians or the top banks, and you are in business development, every 2 guys with a PowerPoint think that they can sell into your organization. And that's just not the case.
Oh, right.
So we were able to become sort of slowly more being seen as a curated provider of Fintech goodies rather than annoying salespeople. And then the third people that we help, and I feel strongly about this, are our employees, the salespeople, and the 1099 people that we're working with. Because if you are just selling one product, it is hard to do true relationship-based sales. You're pushing that product. Like my last job, I sold a robo. And if I would have called you up and say, Rich, you want to buy a robo? And you go like, nope, there's nothing for us to talk about for the next few years as long as you're employed there. As where with us, the people they work with us, they have a product palette of about 16, 17 solutions. And so they can have a meaningful conversation and try to be truly solution providers rather than salespeople.
Yeah. And I'm going to make another point about these salespeople. Most of the people I've met, maybe all the people I've met on the team, are from industry. They've had storied careers. I mean, they just have all this experience and they want to use that to their best abilities right now. And you're empowering them to do that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's the people that work with us. I mean, I joke, our diversity is we have old guys that use a CPAP and guys that don't use a CPAP.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, we're all, 30-year veterans and all around that 60-year age bracket. But yeah, we're people that have done corporate America, know how it works, know that it's not that easy to close an enterprise deal, certain steps that you need to go through. And we help the fintechs and some fintechs think the moment you close a deal with the business, that then the deal is done. They've never heard of procurement and the role of procurement, for example, right? And so these are all things where our people and our team can help. And then the other thing that I really, really like is that there's a team approach, right? So you work primarily with Tom on our team, but Brendan has also brought your leads. And so every day with our team, we're completely virtual. We have lunch together. And so every day we get together and everybody talks about their experience and who they're working with. And, hey, I just closed the deal with so-and-so. And then other people are like, oh my gosh, can you make an introduction? So that's another thing that I really like, is this team approach that we're having.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So let's go into some of the experience aspects of this, because you are creating a better customer experience, I think, for a couple of different parties here. Like for me, for example, as a customer of Advintro, and I really don't think of myself as a customer, I think of you guys as partners for us. You are creating a better experience for me because maybe I get to offset some of my time to your team to do follow up and outreach and business development, et cetera, or for anybody else on my team. You're also helping us build a much more mature process, more accountability in our sales cycle, more clarity of what we're doing. But you're also helping bring more value, expertise, and experience to the client conversations that we're having. So therefore, you're creating a better experience for your customer. But that goes to the second part, which is the customer of your customer, right? The ones you're actually bringing. So your buyer, as you said. And one of the things I found fascinating, like you guys gave us an introduction to Bank of America, a company I never thought we would talk to. They're huge, they're proprietary, they're the king of the hill in a way. And it's true, we're not going to do business with them because of the way they work. They want to do everything themselves. They have their own tech, their own teams. But what was fascinating is they have somebody on their team who's just looking at products all the time. And so you guys can walk in the door and say, hey, we've got 15 products you can look at. And don't you meet with them quarterly and other companies like quarterly to do that kind of exposure?
We do have quarterly meetings with some of the largest financial institutions. I don't know that it's probably not a secret, but Bank of America has an invite-only event October 8th and 9th in San Francisco. Paul, my business partner, are invited because they really appreciate the fact that we bring in cool ideas. Same thing with Morningstar. We publicly announced, I have to be careful where we're under NDA.
Yeah, right.
So we did publicly announce 2 deals that we signed with Morningstar. And one of the heads of the Fintech relationships at Morningstar is like, oh my gosh, I should pay you guys because you bring me such cool companies. So most of my day is spent talking to new potential fintechs. And then we decide, and the fintech obviously decides too, is if there is a match. So we're pretty well plugged in as to what's going on, what's cool, what's exciting. And the buyers are valuing that. They're almost seeing us a little bit as a fintech scout, but it is curated. Because if somebody's not SOC 2 certified or they just don't have the right policies and procedures in place to talk to a very large organization, we're not going to make that intro because, then we would be wasting everybody's time. And so that's where I think the buyers know that if it's coming from us, there's a little bit of curation going on.
Yeah. So I want to make this point a little bit more like articulate. You are helping the buyer go through a better experience because you're effectively not selling. You're not pushing. You are guiding. You are, like you say, curating. It's almost like saying, look, I know we're at the restaurant. You're probably going to drink wine. The sommelier comes over and just shows you all the different experiences you can have, and you figure out what's right for you. And in my world, I struggled with sales because I'm a product person. I'm an engineer. And to figure out sales has been a challenge over my career. And I always thought of sales as the used car sales guy. Like I got to convince you, I got to manipulate you, I've got to do tricks. And I don't do those because I don't like them.
It's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite. Yeah.
Does not build trust. Trust is the single most important. It's like Billy Joel says in that one song, it's a matter of trust. It's if you are not trustworthy, it's such a small industry that we're having. There's like 1,000 people working on Wall Street and they all flip around a couple of firms. And if you are not trustworthy and you treat somebody wrong, it's going to harm your reputation. And that's not going to be good for your sales. And by the way, you're a very good sales guy, Rich. I mean, because precisely you don't think that you are. You're just very honest and open in the way you communicate. You're a brilliant sales guy. I mean, you really are.
I will still rebut that because I don't want to label myself the sales guy. But what I do appreciate, you guys have validated that some of the things or many of the things I do are effective, are appropriate. And like, there's a thing that founders go through, Wim, and I think everybody goes through it in their own way, but it's a imposter syndrome type of thing, which is everybody will tell you, be who you are. You are the only person in this world to ever exist out of billions and billions of people through time. You're the only version of this. So be it, do it. And that's really hard to do as a founder when you've got to build the business and encourage the team and come up with product ideas, et cetera. You think, oh, I have to be the cheerleader sales guy, or I've got to be whatever. And I've gone through all those situations. But what I've realized is this is who I am. And I really think of my job as CEO is to help people make a high quality decision, to empower them to do their best work, to solve problems. I don't really care about making the sale. I care about, can I solve the problem for my customer and be partnered with them to do that? And then you guys say, well, that's a brilliant sales person. And I'm like,
but that is, I mean, people buy from people they like. So there's a word in there, people. If you go to sales, there's nothing more fun than going to a sales training with a bunch of people that are not natural salespeople. Natural salespeople are pleasers. I mean, that's just, they want to make people happy. They want to please people. It's just, this is not about being conniving and trying to convince somebody. It truly is trying to help somebody. And I think it can be trained, but it's also something that some people have and that they're born with. And like I once went to a sales training, a long time ago, and there was a couple of engineers there who were not natural salespeople. And so they said, hey, the first 5 minutes of the conversation, you have some, building rapport. If you see a fish hanging behind the guy's office, talk about fishing. And so literally every one of those 5 salespeople, of those 5 engineers started the conversation. Oh, I see you like fishing. And then after 5 minutes, they were like transitioning into the actual push. It's about building relationships. And you truly have to believe that you can, build a good relationship with people. And then you add value to what they're doing by providing a product solution, which is why I like very much what we have, because we have so many solutions that are cool. And people are like I tell people, when I try to convince them to go on a quarterly call with us, I want, when you see my or thing pop up on the calendar or meeting, I want there to be a smile. I wonder what the hell he found this time, as opposed to what he's going to try to push me now. Yeah. And that's kind of, this guy at Bank of America, he's got a team of 12 people looking for cool fintechs. He's like, I don't know where you guys find them. And so, and it's fun. We're having a good time. My partner, it's a lot of fun.
When you talk about relationship, I mean, diagnose the word, it means to relate with somebody, right? And the simple, we all do this. Like, how's your weather where you're located, or how is your weekend, or what are you going to do this holiday, et cetera. I suffered with that for the first 10 years in my business, as I had a business partner who was helping with sales, and he'd spend the first 10 minutes talking about cigars and sailboats and end the meeting with cigars and sailboats or whatever. And I was always like, let's just get to the stuff. let's get into the tech. Like, that's why I'm here. I'll tell you a funny story, Wim. I was at Bear Stearns back in the day and had a conversation with their CTO. And he said, I said something like, and this was in person, by the way, like 12 people around the table. It was myself and my partner who was in sales at the moment. And I said, I'm not here to sell you anything. And honestly, it was funny from a political standpoint. It went from him laughing to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy, all of them laughing. And then when he stopped, everybody stopped. And then my partner looked at him and said, no, Rich is sincere. He's not here to sell you anything. I am.
By not trying hard to sell and genuinely helping people, people going to trust you and they're going to buy for you. Because even in a large organization, there's one guy or one girl that takes the responsibility and saying, I'm putting my name on the line. We need to work with these people. And so the larger the organization, the harder it is to convince them, because the buying motivation changes, right? So if you are a small organization, the buying decision maybe, will this make me more profitable? Will this make me save some money? Middle organizations are kind of ideal. Large organizations, the number one buying decision is like, is this going to get me in trouble? Like if I'm the person that actually have to write, convince my senior manager that to sign the agreement, if it goes great, the upside is still limited. In an organization that generates billions of dollars, the upside is not huge. The downside, however, if some PII gets leaked or something bad happens, the downside is enormous. So the buying decision is different with a larger organization. And so you have to feel and play, not play to that, solve that solution for that person, saying, look, we know you work for a very large organization. We know privacy is a huge concern. These are the steps that our client has taken, and this is how we're trying to address everything, preventing them from looking foolish within their organization by, threatening threatening their career by signing a deal.
You just described why the saying was nobody got fired for hiring IBM.
Exactly.
Right? It was a safe choice because the people are worried about the safety of their career, their jobs, and their company, like you said, especially in today's day of privacy data. Wim, when I met you, I had this, and maybe this is your persona, but I had this feeling like, wow, could we be good enough to work with Wim? Like, is my company good enough? And I love that feeling because I think a true partnership is equals. And I want to bring as much to the table as you're bringing to the table. So I'm kind of curious if you could talk about how do you select this specially curated group of companies? Because everybody, especially in startups, everybody has a challenge selling. How do you choose somebody?
It really is. There's no hard and fast. First, do we like the people? Like we liked you, Paul and I. We like this guy, Richard. And that's just an intangible, and it's the most important one, quite frankly, because we're old. We don't want to deal with people we don't like, right? Two, do we feel deep in our heart that we can sell this? Do we feel that this solves a problem and that we can sell a fair amount of it? And then three, is it cool? Is it interesting? And so, if we think we may not be able to sell this yet because the product is not mature, but it's really cool and it has a lot of potential, we may take you on as a client. But the nice thing is, look, Paul and I, we don't have any outside investors. We run stuff by Brendan, who's, also one of our partners. And the three of us together will decide if we want to work with somebody. And then obviously the client has to decide if they want to work with us. So there is no scientific, we don't go through metrics. We don't, have spreadsheets. It really is like the Germans call it, Fingerspitzengefühl. You feel it in your fingertips whether you want to work with somebody. But the most important thing is, do we like the people?
Yeah, I think that's a very important metric. I've often said it, life's too short to work with people you don't like. And that goes for customers and partners and vendors all across the board. So I'm glad to hear that. It's funny. When I met you, I was at a conference and you told me that Brendan was one of your guys and he was working for another customer. So I went and vetted him without you knowing it, just to test him and see how that was going. And it was really, really fun to see how he was interacting with this particular company. I forget what the company was, but the founders, I don't know that English was their first language. I think definitely geek was their first language. So having somebody there who could help them translate to customer needs and values is a huge benefit that you're providing to a technically driven company. Let's talk about some of these customers. I mean, I've had your stake on my podcast, which is one of your customers, I believe. And I think I've had a couple others. Let's talk about it from two perspectives. One is what makes for a bad relationship? Like, what are some of the expectations or behaviors of a customer that makes for a bad partnership? If there's anything that you could point out, maybe you like them, maybe you start working with them, but what makes it not work?
A lack of transparency and also territorialism. I mean, we have in our agreement, that people can send us a no-fly list, but you don't do that. Here's my HubSpot. It's right open. Let's close everything. Kumbaya. Let's all work together. But it has to be, in order for us to put our reputation on the line, which is what we're doing, we have to know what's good about your product and potentially what's not so good. And so we can anticipate, potential flaws and then make an informed decision whether we're going to introduce somebody or not, right?
Yeah.
It's our reputation that we're having. But we think we do a good amount of vetting. And then there's also timing. So we used to work with people for a minimum of 3 months. We changed that to 6 months. It's
good.
hard.
Yeah, sales are hard. That cycle is not that short.
It's not. It's between getting to know and understand the product, honing in on a sales strategy, finding the target audience, get the target audience, ready to engage. It takes a little bit of time. We're not miracle workers. I mean, I think we're decent at what we're doing, but we can't work miracles, right?
Yeah. No, it is very much like a snowball. You start building it and growing it and growing it, and then you get a few introductions, and then you get a few leads, and then you get a few conversations, and then you get a proposal out, and months go by, and then finally somebody signs, and it's like, now we got momentum, we got excitement. Yeah, you have to allow for that. And it would be no different if you were hiring an internal sales team or person.
Exactly. And so we're also not very good with metrics. So we've tonight working with a couple of clients where they're like, okay, so how many calls are you going to make a day? And how many leads is that going to produce? We're going to work for you, give or take, 50 hours per month. And we're going to document that in the CRM that you can see live. And, we'll fly to meetings for you. But it's hard to quantify, especially these bigger relationships, a call into, an LPL or a Pershing or a Vanguard or a Fidelity is not the same as a call into, an RIA with 100 million. They're both, B2B sales. So it's hard to quantify that.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I think what you're pointing to is something that I believe very deeply, that if I'm going to empower you to do your best work, it means that I allow you to go do what you do. And I don't necessarily try to tell you how to do it or change how you do it. You're the expert. In fact, I want to learn from you because you're the expert, and let it run, let it do what it's going to do. Time will tell if it's going to work. But I also really agree with that transparency thing. And I think you need transparency with clients. I have found more value in telling clients that we can't do something than in saying we can do something. I mean, our product does a lot of things, but when I tell them it doesn't do this, it gives them facts they can deal with and gives them clarity so they can make better decisions for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that will lead to an honest answer, right? If you're honest in what you can and cannot do, you will get an honest answer. And there's nothing worse for a startup or a scale-up than a disingenuous yes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to waste a ton of time and resources hoping that big deal is going to materialize. So that's one of the things I think that we bring. We have a good relationship with some of the buyers. And if it's not for them, they're going to say, look, we're not going to do this because this, and this reason. And that's very valuable intel for the startup, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Obviously, you want the other answer, but that's just sometimes, no it clarifies things a lot.
It does. It does. So the second perspective I wanted to ask you about in this is you talk about things need to be cool, exciting, innovative, that people are going to have their interest piqued. I mean, come on, forms is pretty boring. So is it all about AI? Is it the trends? What makes it cool in your mind that is worthy of bringing to a customer?
Well, you make forms less boring, right? They are boring.
I like to think so.
The way you're doing it, it's obviously less boring. And look, everybody has forms and it's a pain to deal with. And so you can make that a lot more efficient. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's fun, but it is cool what you're doing. Any AI, look, right now, AI pops up in every conversation. It's a little bit different from last year. So last year, people were talking about AI, but they were scared about it. And we would actually advise our clients not to mention the word AI too much because compliance would, 9 times out of 10 say, no, we're not ready for this.
Yeah.
It seems like AI has matured and use cases have shown up that are relevant. And I'm very intrigued with the whole agent infrastructure that we have a couple of clients that play in that space. And I think that's genuinely going to change the way people are performing tasks, because at the end of the day, that's what an agent is doing. It's performing a task for you, as where an LLM wrapper is basically providing you with an answer. Where it's a true answer or a wrong answer, that's their job, is to find the answer. And so hallucinations will potentially come. The task approach is, this is my job. I'm doing this task, and then they coordinate with another agent, and another agent, and another agent. And then when everything is done, there comes another agent that checks all the work. And so that approach seems a lot less threatening for buyers, because last year, if you bought an AI solution, 3 weeks later, you looked like a fool because it was outdated. If you buy an agent infrastructure, there is a good chance that you can just add more databases, add more agents, and therefore you will remain current. So I've seen a change in the buyers that they're actually willing to write checks and agreements for this AI this year.
So I'm going to go back to this perspective. I think what's cool is what solves problems and potentially does it in innovative ways, and does it in ways that maybe nobody else can do it, which is something I always look at. How do we do things differently than anybody else in the world? How can we make it better, faster, cheaper, et cetera? But also going back then to talk about the AI, you're right. The agent mindset is a really interesting one, because you can take portions of jobs, not necessarily whole people. Maybe it is whole people, but they get to do portions of jobs. Go do the research and bring that back. Now the next agent's going to take that research and turn it into content. The next agent's going to take that content and put it into an email campaign.
Yep.
Right. So you have these kind of like micro jobs or workflow elements where an agent can be involved, or 100% driven by agents. And that starts to create scalability and streamline workflows for people. So then we go to the question of, will AI replace jobs? And I still don't think it will. But what do you think?
I mean, it's going to replace jobs and it's going to create jobs, just like every other invention, right? So there's jobs, like if I was to be in college right now, I'd be convinced that the job that I'm eventually going to have is not invented yet, right? And now that is a real job. So the one thing that's interesting with AI versus different innovations is the speed of change.
Mm-hmm.
And where the internet, 1996, started, and then it got crazy in 1999, 2000. We had a bubble burst in 2001. And it took around to 2015, like on the stock market. If you bought Microsoft in 2001, you didn't get your money back until 2016. So it took about 15 years. This AI thing seems to move so much faster. I like to say, for what we're doing, I think AI is not going to replace us. It will actually magnify the importance of soft skills.
Yeah.
Because soft skills, are true. I mean, AI, there's going to be a lot of fake stuff going on, and there's going to be hard to know what's real, what's not real. And so I think soft skills with a good understanding of AI, that's going to be very important in the not too distant future.
Yeah. I don't want a relationship with an AI.
Yeah.
You just can't have one, right? They're not human. So people still buy from people. And I think, like, I'm already seeing this. HubSpot put out a bot of AI within their system. So now if I need to prepare for a meeting, I can type in somebody's name and it gives me a summary. It shows me their contact, their deals, the opportunities, whatever. So it's very fast. It's saving me time and I can be more well prepared. That's what I love about AI, is facilitating and enabling me to do my work faster and better. But you're right. It's not going to replace relationship. Wim, we're going to run out of time here, so I'll have to wrap this up. But before I do that, and I have another question for you, what's the best way for people to find and connect with you?
It is Wim, so that's WIM, no P, at advintro.com, ADVINTRO, stands for Advice and Introduction. It's not the best name in the world, but we're keeping it.
It's sometimes a little hard to say Advintro, and people's like, what? Say that again? Advintro.
People go like, ADV intro, they're thinking of form ADV. So I didn't think that one through 100%.
That's okay. That's okay. You can build a brand on great work and great reputation, no matter what the brand's called. So here's my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
Frank was a very senior executive at Pershing. And he once told me that he got back to people every single day, the same day, with a response. So even if it was to say, I don't have time to get back to you, he got back with you. And I like that attitude. If somebody sends you an email, if somebody reaches out to you, get back to them, respond, even if it's to say you don't have time to respond. So I really like that. And then also, I think my co-founder, Paul, it's, working with somebody together as a co-founder is incredibly challenging. And our company is 5 years old. And Paul and I have never had an argument in 5 years. It's magical. And we didn't know each other that well before we started the company. And we work together every day. He does a lot of the stuff that I'm really bad at. So we're incredibly complementary, and I'm very grateful for Paul and Brendan and Tom and John, the team. I'm just happy to be working with the people I'm working with. And it's really very, satisfying to work with people every day that you like.
It is. It truly, truly is. It's magical when you get it. And a business partnership can be worse than a marriage when it's not working. Yeah, I like Paul so much. And I'm glad to know you guys didn't fight over who got to be on the show.
Well, you can ask him next time.
Yeah, right. All right. I want to give a big thank you to Wim Van Lerberghe, founder of Advintro, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Wim's website at advintro.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easy. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Thank you so much for joining me today, Wim.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.